In this video, we're going to explore how can we add data and remove data in a chart with Chart.js, or in other mean, or probably here in other words, how to filter data in a chart. I believe here we have basically two type of items, and this is one of our viewers. So let me show you here that on one of my videos we have this viewer, Mohamed. And he asked this question. So special thank you for him for asking the question. I will answer the question, but I know that this would mean two different videos. One is specifically on how will we filter the data and then start to show only the data that we filtered out. And the other one would be how can we add and remove data in a chart. All right. So the first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a chart, and then we're going to work specifically on this. So this will be the real focus for this video. In the next video, I will cover how we will filter data in a chart. So let's look here. So the first thing we're going to do in here, we have here our blank template. And in here, I'm going to start to make the chart. And what I will do here is just to get started, I will get the default settings from Chartjs.org. And once you click on Chartjs.org, you see here creating a chart. I'll just copy this data here. Copy this, and I'm going to paste this in here. So once I paste this, I will do some proper indentation here. All right, and finally what I want to do here is, I want to remove this. I'm going to give this a specific div with a specific element, or with a specific size for the div. And the reason why is, if you don't do this, Canvas or Chart.js will just increase in infinity, which is of course not what we want. So we say here a div, and then I'll just give this a proper class. Let's call this our chart box. All right, so we have our chart box here. And what I want to do as well here, most likely what we're going to do is have another box. And in this box, we're going to put a so-called input box. So we call here div class. And we were going to put in here, let's say input box. Meaning that in here, you're going to put in some inputs, and when we add up the inputs, it would add the value in here. So what we can do is the following. So we say here input, and then I will just put in here a input type equal, this will be a number because we're going to work with numbers here. And we say here ID is input data. All right, very straightforward, nothing fancy here. So once we have this, I want to make sure that this has a class. Put it in here, the chart box. And in this chart box, we're going to put in a width of, width of 500 pixels. Save that. This one here, I'll just leave it for now. We could make this more fancy. Maybe say here the input, or we can say here the ID of input, ID input data, and then in here border solid 1333. Then we have here padding. We say here 5 padding, 10 pixels of padding. So basically top and bottom 5, left and right 10. Maybe a margin of 5 pixels everywhere around. All right, so once we save this here, go back here, refresh, we have this here, and then we have our chart. Does our chart work? Did we get the JavaScript library? Did I save that one? Without my knowing, I did not save that. So let's add that one in there. Go here. When we are on the website, click on Getting Started. Get here the Chartjs library. Put it in here below. Always make sure that the Chartjs library is before everything else, so it can start to load that. Then here we're done here. So we save this here. We should have now everything working accordingly. All right, that looks very nice. So we have here this item. I realize we need to put in here also a button to confirm it. When we add up here, we should add up here new item. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to do another input. And here I will just put in a text, but this will be not input data, input color. And what we have more is, well, we can let's see here. Well, basically here we have all these colors that we need to give or add up, and we also might need an extra label. And this is specifically for a bar chart. If you have a line chart, you probably don't have to do this one here because you only have single value. You just want to add up the values here. So it will be, of course, dependent. So what I'm going to do here now is that we have this one, we have another text, this will be input color, this will input label. Alright, so we have these here. And then what we want to do is the following. A button. And here we say class, and this class can be insert data. Or this could be also an ID, doesn't matter so much. We're going to probably just put here an on-click, that the moment we click on this, we will insert this data here. Very simple, very straightforward here, nothing fancy. Alright, I see that the data or the button here, save or add data. Alright, what I will do is here maybe input. You can see here, I realize we can do this. I will just give it a class here. What is it? Input design. Copy this. Just paste it in here. There we are. Copy this. Put it in there. Dot. Alright. Save this. Refresh. Fair enough. So that looks very straightforward. It's nothing fancy. And maybe in here up, the only thing what I would like to do here is give this a padding of 20 pixels. And just increase the size of this to 700. Alright, so it's nice and big, easy to follow. Fair enough. So now we have everything here. We have the number. We have here, this would be the color if I'm not mistaken. So we say here, placeholder. Placeholder. And here, color. And label will be label. Color label. Nice. So we know exactly what they are in this number, but that's a given because of this for now. Alright, we've got this now. We will not continue anything more. We only need to connect now basically the add data here. So the moment we put in here, we have to do or add some values. So to understand this, you need to understand the following. You need to understand that Chart.js is a JavaScript library. That means it works with arrays. So if you understand this, you probably have almost the answer of how to add values. You need to add values based on how you adjust an array in JavaScript. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is the following. We're going to click here, or what we will do here is we will make here a function or an on-click on this one. So we say here on-click. Now I'll add here a function, say update chart. So that will be the first one, update chart. And in this function, we're going to work with arrays. So we're going to copy this. And then we say here the following here. Let's see, we can do that just below here. We can say here, function, update chart. And then within here, we can start to work with the values. So what do we need then? First of all, to update a chart, we have a default command for Chart.js. However, what we want to do first is get this data here. We want to make sure that, first of all, this input, once we click on the update chart or the add data, this function would trigger, which you already have done with the onClick, but then it should grab the number here, grab the text here, and grab the text from this item here. So let's start and work on that by just creating console logs. Alright, so we get this one number, we already have the ID name, make sure you have the ID name. That's what we're going to do. So we say here, console, what we can do is first is we can make a constant, and this constant will be the following. The constant will be named exactly identical with the ID for simplicity's sake. The reason why is that it's easy to search them once you have the same name here. So we say here, the same name as the ID or the class. So we say here, document.get element by ID, and then in here, single quotation here, which is a default setting for JavaScript or which is recommended in JavaScript, and then get the ID name. So we're going to search. Basically what we're really saying here, search in the HTML document, which is this entire file here, and look for an element. And an element is basically these items here they call element or selectors. So they're both named. In CSS we usually call them selectors, and in HTML we call them elements, but in JavaScript we can call them both elements or selectors. But in our case we want to have the element in the input, but specific element ID name input data. Alright? So that's the reason we get that. So we say here, get the element by the ID or with the ID name of input data. Alright. So once we have this, we're done here. The very next item is we're going to get that and then we put a console log. So we say here console.log. We get the input data dot value. Why dot value? Well, what we're going to get is not only the input data in general, but the specific value here. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. If we just copy this, put it in here, I'm going to remove this one here first. You'll see that this will input data will get you the entire element, all of the parts or nodes in the element, which I don't want because I just want only one specific item, which is the value. Alright, so I'm going to put in this here, save this, refresh, and then open up the developer tab, and then just remove the mobile view. Alright, so we're here in the console, nothing happens yet. The moment I put in here number, and then I say press this button, look what happened. I say here, this is the first console where we only get the input data as the ID. You can see you get the full information here, which I don't care about because this has not the value I want. But the second one shows number 1. So if I put in here number 2 now, or number 12, add data, there you are. So it starts to add. So we did now our first part is connecting with JavaScript and HTML. So HTML and JavaScript can read each other's items. So now what we want to do is now we have to show this and return this back into the data item here. Alright, to do this, you must understand arrays, and you have arrays, you have push. In our case, what we're going to do is we want to add it up to the end. So we say we're going to put a push. So push, basically array.push equals, if you would have 1 to number 3, then we would press a button, and a button will add a new value on it. And let's say that would be number 23. That would be comma, and the push will be at the very end. So we do here, this is push. And another one is here, to put it at the very end is shift. For example, this, then what happen here, you want to put it at the very front, we say shift. Then whatever the number is, it will shift here. So this is the most important one for adding data. Removing data here between is almost similar to this, but basically here, if this would be 4, then we say here pop. Removing this one, then this one will be, this number 4 will be popped out like a bubble. We pop the bubble and this will disappear. I don't know why they call it pop, but I guess that's probably that's the only thing I can imagine. Here, unshift is basically removing. If here would be number 10, unshift will remove this one, meaning that your array will only have this. Well, basically this should be here, because you recognize that there's now lesser values in the array. Same here. You have this and then there. Alright, so these are very important values to use. Alright, let's go now and continue and using these values. So what we want to do is first we want to get the array. The array is there here, the data. So how do we get there? From my chart, data, data sets, and then data. Remember, this is an index number. Index number, and it starts with 0 because the first, what do you call that? The first element in the index, which we call the first element, but in index it's number 0 because that's the starting point of counting, 0-based counting. So here as well, whatever we want to add up here, or here same, here the data, and then we can add specifically or just add at the end or at the very first. So what we're going to do now is just do this one here. So what we're going to say here is my chart. We're going to grab the value to make the array dot data sets. Remember that? Data dot data sets. Here, remember this was index 0. This is 0, and then we have here the data. Alright, so in here we have now this part, and all what we want to do is here we can say here push. What will we push here? The value we put in here, the input data. So I want to put it in here. And once we have that input data, we will push that value in. And what we will do here more, so I'm going to make sure that we get this value as well. Make sure that's input data.value, very important. So once we did that, what we need to do as well is we need to do it also for the other two elements. Color and label, which is input color, and this should be, let's keep this input label, makes more sense. Consistency is important. Alright, so I'm going to copy this. Then we say here, one more time, and then we say here input color. And here as well, color, and finally here label. And label. Alright, so we got this here, and basically what we have to do now is we have to pinpoint them all at the right location. So we say input color will be add on background color, but also the border color. So you want them double. And these are string values, so what we're going to do is, well, basically I'm going to just copy this, put it in here. There's a my chart data sets. Let's double check that. My chart data sets, and then we go in here is the background color. So there's a background color and after the border color as well. So you say here data set background color push value, and then here of course will be input color. The same is with this value here, but then on border color, because they're on the same equal level as you can see. So this is the border color. So once we did that, we got the value input color. Next one is the last item, which would be, if we look here, this is the label, and the label will be added in here in labels. So it's also in my chart data and then labels. Watch out here, don't be confused with label. It should be here labels because we want to have this specific value here. Basically, the below this part you should have that value. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to add up this. I'm just going to put this in here, but then remove a chunk of code. So I can just remove this here all. Then here, data. Then from data we go to labels. And then here from labels, we will immediately push the value. So we have to push that value. There's no array in here, so no data sets, no numbers, no need. So in here, push, and then we say here, label. As the ID was the input label. Alright, yes, and it's correct here because we should use these naming conventions here. So here we have to look at this. This should be matching, not the part here. This is the one we named. Alright, we've got this now. Let's save this and then just check how we can add up the data. Or what we want to do, the final one is here. Once we did everything and we push on it, what we want to do here is say my chart dot update to update the chart values here, which is a common command in Chart.js. Save this. Once you save this, refresh. Alright, and then I'm going to put in here number 6. Say here color will be blue. And this label will be, or I guess dark blue. Let's see what happens. Once we add up here, as you can see, we now add up the new value in here. And this is done with pop, where we add up, assuming that we always want the value at the very end. What we can do as well is maybe want to remove an item. So that was the other part of the question. How do we remove an item? Well, what we can do here is the following. Let's say instead of this, or maybe not even remove an item, you want to put it at the front. So what we can do here is update chart. Well, what we can do here, we can just remove this or change this. We can do here, as I told you previously, or even before, we have the unshift. Unshift covers, is it shift or unshift? Sorry, it's shift. If I'm not mistaken, it's shift. Adds value at the beginning. Alright, so that's your unshift, or shift, sorry. Let's double check if that's really shift or maybe it's unshift. Let's save this, and once I do this, and then now if I press on the button, no, alright, sorry. It is not, it should be unshift. Unshift is adding a value at the beginning. Shift is removing a value at the beginning. Sorry, that's the only one I mistaken. So basically like undo, unshift. And then here, let's save that one more time. So now what we do is we're going to get the value here. Let's say 10. The color will be pink. Then we say here start. When you click on this, add, there you are. Now we're adding up the value. So what we can do as well, and this is more commonly, let's say you keep on having values, but you don't want to have consistently these things here. But basically, it starts to add up here, and after it becomes far too long like this. This doesn't make sense. What you probably want to do is maybe you have this data here, you add it at the very end, and then we remove the data here at the beginning. So how do we do this? Well, basically, all we have to do here is a very easy item here. All right, so we have the unshift. I'm going to put this back to what is that? Not pop. The other one is. Let me just undo that. I will find the name for that. Push. Sorry, that's the name. I suddenly lost it. I don't even know why. Push. All right, you're going to push the value. This is unshift. All right. So we're going to push the value, but what we want to do as well is we want to shift the value, or basically once we add up a value here, we want to remove the first value here. All right. So that's what we can do as well. All we have to do is here basically get the arrays here, the data, and basically we copy this all. We say the following. Here, push, and this will be shift. There you are. And now what we're going to do is we're going to copy this consistently 4 times. So we have the background color, shift, border color, shift, and but we have more than labels. I guess we can just remove this one. And then here, shift as well. So what will happen now is basically when you add up the commands, it will add a value and then it will remove a value at the, and after that it will start to update. Make sure the update is at the end because you want to first run through all the code before you do an update. Save this, refresh, and then here, let's say here, and, oh sorry, this is a number. Let's put in here number 9. I say here color, what is that? Gold, that's a nice color. There's a label here, we say end. So when we add up this here, as you can see, it now starts to show, it adds one, removes one, and there you are. And so you have like a rotation here. And then if we change this to lime green, for example, is that lime? I think lime is a color. There you are. And so we create these nice animation, although you can see the animation is quite slow in here because it has to update everything. However, this is the way how you can do that. And of course, you could do exactly with deleting the values as well. Where with the same option where we can say instead of push, we do here unshift. Unshift. And then we say here pop. Pop is removing the very last value. So here what we do is, and then it starts at the very front and we remove the orange here. So let's say here 6, then this will be again gold, and this will be beginning or start. Add, as you can see, the orange removes and it starts here, and then there you are. And for some reason here the animation works far more fluent than the other way around. Why? Maybe it's the structure of the data, I'm not sure. But basically it adds up here and then pops. So maybe that's the reason why. So that could be as well. But this is how you can play around with it. And if you make this here lime, and then we add up, there we are. Did it work? Yeah. Yes, it did work. All right. So this is basically how you do it. So this is the answer of the first question, or maybe what I want to do before I even continue on, I want to show you the line, because this is maybe another one, because bar is slightly different than with line. If you do the line, what happened here, right, we got this, then you can see here if we add up 1, what happens, there you are. So here the colors, and I guess this part here should maybe be removed, because now it starts to get the border color here. What I would suggest here is the following. So let me show you what we're going to do here. We're going to remove the border color, or we can basically, yeah, we should remove the border color here. The reason why, you can see here the border color is just this line here, and what you can assign to is the points here. So I'm going to remove that one and the border color here as well. Save this, and then if we refresh, we have this here. The line here, the starting line is red. That's this one here for the border color. So basically this could be like this because it has no real value. If you really want to change that, let me show you how. Alright, remove the array. Don't use array then. If you want to really adjust the border color, we can just add the border color here then. And what we're going to do here will of course not be any more border color. Remember, now we're not working anymore with an array. Pay attention, this is not anymore an array here. This is just a data value. So what does this mean? Here data with the border color is this one, unshift here. We cannot use unshift anymore. What we need to do here now, we just put an equal sign. Alright, very important, equal sign. Save this. So then the border color will be whatever we indicated here. So once we refresh, alright, so everything is red, and then we say here 5. Now we say here green. Then we say here label green as well. Once we add that, oh, alright, sorry, then we get an error. Let's double check what's the error. Data is yeah, this one, of course, the pop. Sorry. The border color here is also not allowed to pop, of course. The reason why is there's no array. But the background color is still an array. Alright, so mistake of mine. Sorry, I didn't pay attention to remove that one. So let me double check if we have everything. If the unshift of the label, the data sets, data, and the background color. The border color not. Alright, so let me remove this one or reposition this up. Save that. Put this here together. Alright, so now you understand this one is separate because we just say equal to the new value. This is what you call a reassigning of a value. We reassign this value to whatever is equal to here. Alright? I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, put a comment in the video below and I'll make sure I'll answer it more elaborate. Alright, we got this here. 10 value here. Let's make this green. And then we say here green. Add data. Now everything becomes green. There you are. And now we say, well, let me make a new one. We put it here at the very end. We say this will be gold. And this text will be gold with capital G, or we can make it even all caps locks. And up here you can see here it starts to show. There you are. Of course you can see you have here the border color inside is being colored because these are being assigned. And this one is colored as well, as you can see, but they had a very translucent style, or the opacity was quite high basically, so that's why it became more transparent. Alright, that's because of the items here. The background color had a transparency. You can see here transparency, or the alpha value is 0.2, means only 20% visible. That's it. Alright, so this is basically the most important part. You understand it in bar, you understand it in line, you understand also here if you do the border color and there's only a single value, remove the brackets because this will indicate it's an array, and then you can get sometimes errors, or the color value will not be exactly as you expected. So this is very important, and that's the only thing here. Remember, unshift, pop, shift. Basically unshift is adding one at the beginning. Shift is removing a value from the beginning in an array. Pop is removing a value at the very end of the array. And the other one, push, is adding a value at the very end. Alright, this is for now. Later on in the comment section, you can find the other video which will cover your other part of the question, which is how to filter data in Chart.js. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you enjoy this video, you probably will enjoy this one as well. And if you're interested in Chart.js, check out in the description box the link directing to my Chart.js course where you can learn everything about Chart.js. And finally, of course, make sure you subscribe to my channel.